Mucha gente sufre, llora demasiado solo para poder llegar, pero hay veces que pues yo me pongo a pensar y que digo que la gente es así pues porque son así. O sea, no sé si me lo puedo explicar. Todos quieren tener un sueño o una vida muy bien hecha, pero...
The coyote, like many others, don't understand why migrants would go to such lengths just to get to the US. But his perspective is an informed one. He spent most of his life in a border town, and for a year lived in San Antonio and worked as a dishwasher, where he said he felt alienated, exiled, overworked, and depressed.
He estado encerrado, trabajando encerrado. Es lo único.
But does admit the service wages were much higher. Yet, so was the cost of living, so he was barely able to make any money. This equation is something that very few economic migrants seem to be aware of, which points to a larger issue, which is the widespread proliferation of American dream propaganda in developing nations. Every migrant that I've spoken to, from Senegal to Guinea to Guatemala and to Bangladesh, believe without any prior experience or really contemporary information about the problems facing American society that America is paradise, heaven on earth, a place of free elections, free press, and unlimited social welfare programs.
I just been swiping for EBD. Go to the bank, get a stack at least. This shit here better than selling peas. I made some rent that I couldn't believe.
But they're not aware, as I just mentioned, about the skyrocketing cost of living yet stagnant minimum wage in every major US city that's eroding the working class in cities like San Francisco, where many lifetime city natives have been priced out in the past couple years.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's impossible to live here. The rent is rising, minimum wage is the same, no parking. If you get a parking ticket, nigga, that's a whole check right there.
Migrants seem to be totally unaware of the ongoing cold class war in America's major cities, or that the majority of US citizens have been strategically divided into politicized consumer groups by the investment firms who control the mainstream media. They've been using the border issue to stoke the flames of an internal culture war between Americans by pulling on liberal heartstrings with migrant sob stories, while simultaneously stoking conservative anger by blaming the global economic crisis on Joe Biden. But both angles are deployed by the same propaganda apparatus whose primary goal is to generate revenue by bringing clicks and engagement to legacy media, which will collapse, but not yet. In the meantime, legacy media's purpose is to distract and divide. And so, these migrants who risk their lives in the river are more political objects than they are humans to the American public. So sure, America may be a free country in comparison to somewhere like Saudi Arabia or North Korea, but I believe that between the language barrier, the lack of job opportunities, the high cost of living, and the general anti-migrant sentiment among Americans, many who cross the river are in for a rude awakening whenever they arrive. And in some places, like Chicago, that's seen over 10,000 migrants in the past month, it's already happening.
The first evictions under Mayor Johnson's 60-day migrant shelter policy, they're scheduled for next week.
Because of the city's eviction policy, many are set to spend the winter homeless in one of America's coldest major cities. It seems that many of them had absolutely no plans upon their arrival to America. They just figured it would work itself out. That's a problem. And so I think if we actually want to solve the border issue, we need to figure out where and how this America rules, American dream propaganda begins in developing nations, and figure out how to give the world a more realistic picture of our declining nation.